Welcome, everyone. As Brian said, my name is Brad Odell. I'm a PhD student at North Carolina State University. And yes, I have my thesis defense on Thursday. So I'm going to do two things here, hopefully. One is introduce the SNS and HFIR user group. So now that you are all here, whether you've been to Oak Ridge before or not for experiments, you're all members of what we call SHUG, SNS and HFIR user group. It's kind of an advocacy and representation group that encompasses all the users of both facilities and represents them in matters toward the long-term direction and decision-making of the facilities with both the ORNL management, local management within the facilities, and DOE. So you are a part of this community, and there are also opportunities to serve more prominently within SHUG. So every fall there are elections for representatives to SHUG. There can be at any one time one representative who's either a graduate student or a postdoc. I don't believe that position's coming up for re-election this fall, but watch every fall when those positions come up, because particularly by being a representative to the executive committee of SHUG, you really learn a lot more about the facilities, get an opportunity to serve the facilities, and really network within the scientific community of neutron scattering users. So there's my brief plug for SHUG. And yes, don't just shrug, talk to SHUG about any issues that you think are important for the future of the facilities. And now, what I'm mainly here to talk about is various programs that can allow you to have an extended research stay at Oak Ridge National Lab as a PhD student. So I've been lucky to spend a little bit over 3 years of my PhD in residence here at ORNL. The same as Alan, I'm actually also an alumni of this school, I should say. So you will see people coming through the doors regularly that you've seen before. There are 3 programs that I want to highlight that provide opportunities, particularly in the form of supplemental funding, to support longer-term visits to ORNL. So the first is and actually I have a printout of this slide, so you don't have to worry about copying down the URLs. I'll hand those out to you. So the first is the SCGSR from DOE Office of Science. There's also the ORAU HERE program and the ORNL GO program. So starting with the DOE Office of Science Graduate Student Research Program, this is actually organized and funded by US DOE Office of Science. It's administrated by Oak Ridge Associated Universities here in Oak Ridge, but it applies to all of the DOE Office of Science national labs. It's designed to give you the opportunity to spend 3 to 12 consecutive months at a DOE national lab, and it provides support in the form of a stipend and 1 round-trip travel to the lab where you're being hosted. Now, one important requirement about this program is that it is limited to people who hold citizenship or legal permanent residency. That's a limitation of the program that many people have cited over the years, but it's currently the way that DOE operates this program. You're also required to be a full PhD candidate at the time that you apply. So you have to finish your quals or prelim coursework by the time you actually are going to take up a position. It also requires that your research is aligned with the DOE Office of Science mission, and there's 2 ways that you can prove that. Either by coming from a lab that receives DOE funding on a reviewed grant proposal, or by aligning or having research that aligns with one of the research focus areas that are declared every 6 months that this proposal is opened up. So historically, there have been 2 application calls per year. In each application call, there are this rather extensive list of areas where you can show research alignment between what you're doing and the mission of DOE Office of Science. I've highlighted here some of the areas that are likely to align with the research that you're doing, and one that's really important to point out is that historically, every year that this specific SCGSR program has had a solicitation for proposals, neutron scattering research and instrumentation has been a focus area. So that means we've actually had many students come to SNS and HFIR through this program because DOE is specifically emphasizing any form of research that involves neutron scattering or neutron scattering instrumentation. Though as you can see, this list is diverse, and alignment with any of these fields can give you an opportunity to apply for opportunities both here at ORNL and any other DOE Office of Science National Lab. So the next program that I want to mention to you is the ORAU HERE program. So this is organized and administrated by Oak Ridge Associated Universities. So this is a program specific to Oak Ridge National Lab. It supports a flexible visit duration, so how long you're going to stay at ORNL is actually on an appointment-by-appointment basis. And if you're close enough or willing to be flexible in where you live, that can also be part-time appointments. There's a stipend, and again, round-trip travel. The only requirement here is that you're an enrolled graduate student. Though there may be some preference given for students who have completed PhD candidacy, there are no strict requirements on citizenship or candidacy. It does require that there are funds available for ORNL to actually support your opportunity through ORAU HERE. And for this program, applications are considered as they're received. They typically organize around a fall, spring, summer proposal cycle, but they'll accept and consider an application whenever they come through. And then the third program that I really want to spend some time to highlight is the ORNL Graduate Opportunities, or GO program. So this is a program that's specifically organized within Oak Ridge National Lab. And it supports flexible visit durations, so anything from months to years on site that are really negotiated, again, on an appointment-by-appointment basis. The amount of financial support you can receive through this program is flexible. It sometimes depends on the agreement in place between the lab and your university, and also the position and what's necessary to actually bring you to Oak Ridge and make your research here possible. You do need to be a graduate student, admitted to PhD candidacy in most cases, but not all, at a university that's considered a GO partner, and I'll go through that in a little bit in a second. This also does depend on there being financial support available at ORNL, and also these kinds of proposals are generally considered as received, though there's a caveat to that I'll discuss. So here's a list of 19 universities that currently have or have had GO students on site here at ORNL. So if you see your university, your home institution on this list, you are ready, set, go to apply for a GO opportunity. There are actually 26 universities that do have these agreements in place. These are just the 19 that have actually already had students. So if you don't see the name here, it's possible your university already has an agreement in place. And these agreements can also be negotiated at any time between the graduate student office here at ORNL and the respective universities. So within Neutron Sciences specifically, the directorate has decided to organize the majority of the GO students that are funded to come to Neutron Sciences into a proposal call process that happens biannually. These are internal proposals that actually get submitted by staff scientists here, so this is not something that you have the responsibility of applying for directly, but it requires a lot of collaboration and support both from you and your supervisor. It varies, but there's kind of a rough goal of hoping to be able to support around 5 students each proposal call. And we've actually just finished our first call under this system, and there's another one expected in late October, early November. And now, I do want to point out that there are opportunities within Neutron Sciences that don't necessarily rely on this structure if mentors here have other resources available for supporting that. And GO, again, let me emphasize, is not specific necessarily to Neutron Sciences. This is just the specific opportunity if you want to work with a primary mentor based in this directorate. And so overall, for all of these programs, the best advice I can give you is use the chance that you have here by being on site at NXS, as well as when you come to do experiments, to discuss whether or not a long-term visit might make sense for your PhD research and how it might be possible to make that happen. And these are discussions that you really need to have directly with ORNL scientists, either you or your major professor or both of you talking about this and working through it. All of these programs have different administrative details and requirements, but the key to any of them being really successful is to have a strong interaction between you, your major professor, and having him or her on board with this project, and a scientist local to ORNL who really also sees a strong potential and a strong vision of what can come out of this collaboration. And just the last point is, All of these programs are based on providing supplemental funds to enable your visit, but if that's not something you need to have to happen to come to ORNL, unfunded long-term visits are also possible, and it's something that you should talk to people about, both your professor and the scientists here, because it's certainly something that can be achieved to make your research possible by staying at ORNL. So that's all I have. Does anyone have any questions? I'm not a representative of any of these programs, so I'm just kind of trying to give you neighborly advice, but I will try to at least point you in the right direction for finding answers for anything specific to these programs. Okay, thank you.